Hi guys, I've got a very special lens for you today. It's the Canon 50mm f0.95 Dream Lens. Lots of sample photos coming up and I'll tell you hopefully everything you need to know about this lens. Stay with me until the end and I'll also share an alternative fast 50mm lens which is easier to find and you can buy it off the shelf, brand new today. Hey guys, Matt here from MrLeica.com. So first, before we get into the lens, let's give you a bit of backstory as to how I got to test the 50-0.95 Dream Lens. I was shooting with Roseanne in the studio on Monday, expecting to be teaching a student on Wednesday. I then spoke to the student and he said, "Oh, I'm actually going to be in London tomorrow. Could you find us a model for tomorrow?" I'm like, "Do you know how difficult it is to find a good model at short notice?" I asked Roseanne, who was obviously shooting with at the time, and said, "Please, can we borrow you for tomorrow's workshop?" She said yes, and so we have a great model to test the Canon 50-0.95 lens, which at the time I didn't know I would be testing. These first few photos I've shared are not shots with the Canon lens, but it gives you something to refer back to. As always, a huge thanks to my amazing patrons. I will share the behind the scenes footage from that shoot with Roseanne on Patreon soon. Okay, on to the Dream Lens. So this is Christoph and he flew in from Zurich to meet me in London for one of my one-to-one Leica workshops with a particular focus on model photography with his Leica M11 camera. He brought the 50mm f0.95 Canon Dream Lens with him. So during the workshop we swapped lenses and I got to try out his amazing lens on my Leica SL camera. First, let me give you more information about the famous Canon Dream Lens. So this lens was originally designed for the Canon 7 or Canon 7S rangefinder cameras. The lens was first released in 1961 and it fits the camera via a 3-lug system. The Dream Lens attaches to the Canon 7 cameras via the external bayonet, which is the 3 lugs as you can see on this arrow here, and not the internal like a screw mount, which is what most lenses are that fit this camera. So I believe it's the only lens which has got this 3-lug external bayonet fit, and as I said, it's designed especially for this camera. The Canon Dream Lens is a stubby yet wide lens with a 72mm filter thread and weighing in at 605 grams. The lens has got 10 aperture blades as you can see from here, and that's what helps give the really nice bokeh even when you stop down a little bit. If you're using this lens on a rangefinder camera, it's got a standard minimum close focus distance of 1 meter. However, if you're using like a SL series cameras or any L mount camera, you can use a 7 odd sans L to M close focus helicoid adapter, which then allows you to focus much closer than the standard 1 meter. That's what I did for the lot of the photos you're going to see coming up in this video. How much does this lens cost, I hear you ask? If you buy from Japan and get in the original amount, you can probably find them for under £2,000. However, if you want a converted to M mount version, as you see on the screen at the moment, you're probably going to pay between £2,500 to £3,000. Okay, the question is, how good is this lens for portraits? So as I say, we're using this lens on both the Leica M11. I don't have sample photos with the M11, but I do have sample photos from the photos I shot with my Leica SL. I also had the TT Odd Sans 50mm f0.95 lens with me, as you can see on the SL here, and that gives you an idea of the size difference between the two lenses. All the photos you're about to see were shot with my Leica SL camera, as usual shooting in RAW, and then I just had my Mr. Leica preset. So first, here are some sample photos of Christoph's hat. He said it could be identified from his hat alone, even though you can't see his face. So this is me focusing with the close focus helicoid adapter to try to get a little bit closer to get an even greater shallow depth of field. Okay, so for any of you that are big fans of Roseanne is the model that I interviewed for one of my YouTube videos. I can link it below. The rest of the photos are me shooting with Roseanne. These are photos with Christoph using my SL and getting used to the focusing. I explained to him that you want to set up one of your function buttons on the M11 camera for magnification. So if using fast glass and an EVF, as in this example, it's much quicker to just punch in to see the higher magnification image to quickly focus to take your picture. So for all M11 users, I'd highly recommend using either the button on the top or the roller wheel on the back of the camera, top right, to set up as a quick function for using the EVF if you use the EVF with your camera when using fast glass. So these photos are with the SL, as you can see from the description, and I just added one of my usual Mr. Leica presets. As you can see, it's not my usual style perhaps because not everything's in focus. I was using the lens wide open at 0.95 for all photos. I then use the 7R close focus helicoid adapter to let me get closer, to give me a even greater shallow depth of field. And then I just wanted something in focus. Maybe it was the mouth, maybe it was the nearest bit of hair, and then that allows me to get an even greater shallow depth of field. To make things more interesting as well, there was 3 photographers, me plus Christoph plus Michael, his friend, a very well accomplished billboard and celebrity photographer from LA. He was with us, so for these photos sometimes I was not directing the shoot, and these are more like grab shots, so I was just trying to get action photos to see what I could get with a moving model with a lens shot to wide open at 0.95. This is me attempting to shoot through the glass, and as you can see from my first attempt it didn't work, but if you keep trying you can shoot through glass to get much more interesting images than maybe shooting them head on without the piece of glass in front. Obviously the glass is going to give you the reflection from the outside, and then you can use your body to block parts of the reflections, allowing you to then see the model inside and get more interesting photos. So the lines across the image are the railings on the balcony outside, and then I just tried to position myself to see Roseanne as close as I could, and then focus on, say, the nearest eye. Sometimes I hit focus, sometimes these are slightly soft, as you can see. But I think one thing we can probably all agree on is the Canon Dream Lens definitely gives more dreamy images than perhaps you're used to seeing on this channel. I shoot a lot of vintage lenses and a lot of fast lenses, but this lens has a pretty special look. I think it's definitely not the same as the Noctilux, and it's not the same as the TTR 50mm f0.95, and it's not the same as the Voigtlander 50 f1 lens. I would say it's softer and more vintage looking than all of those mentioned lenses. That said, if you zoom in and if you do nail focus, it is sharp and it gives really pleasing bokeh, as you can see from these shots that we just shot in the hallway of the hotel. Obviously the closer you get, the nicer bokeh you're going to get. Sorry for the lighting in some of these, it's a bit harsh, but I was more trying to explain during the workshop about the bokeh. This is shooting outside and you can just see the buildings melting away into the background. Again, shooting wide open and getting as close as I can to melt away the background and hopefully get that magic from this lens with the subject background separation. You can see there is sharpness in the centre of the frame and where it counts, and then the rest just melts away with the depth of field. I wanted to compare how good the vintage Canon Dream Lens was compared to a modern TTR 50 f0.95 lens. These photos are shot wide open with the Canon Dream Lens. You can see there is some sharpness, but there's also a lack of contrast and a bit of a glow from the writing, as you can see. Here's me now using the TTR lens, doing the same photo in reverse. You can see the TTR lens has got more contrast, I would say a more modern look, better sharpness, but still a nice glow shot wide open at 0.95. What about bokeh? This is bokeh with the Canon 50 0.95 Dream Lens, and as you can see it's pretty special and there's a bit of vignetting in the corner. This is the TTR, because it focuses closer you can get bigger bokeh balls, but there is also heavier vignetting. So what is the verdict? I'd say for anybody that can afford to buy a clean copy of the Canon Dream Lens in M mount, I'd highly recommend it for that special look, and I'd think it's a good investment too. For everybody else, I'd highly recommend the TTR 50mm f0.95. This lens gives a similar look to the f1 Noctilux lens, as I own both of these lenses. And if you want something smaller, you could check out my videos on the Canon 50mm f1.8 and Canon 50mm f1.4.